You're listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, hey everybody, hope everybody had a good 4th of July. I know I did, and we'll be talking about that for a few minutes, but I have Brandon Crisp here, so he'll be getting his opinion as well. And boy, are they hot, I'm telling you. Well, not really. But anyway, we're going to just talk about afterwards, just the general state of the nation, so to speak, you know, from generational viewpoints, because I'm considerably older than he is. How old are you anyway?
34.
34, yeah. So you're, roughly my son's age. He's 32, and I bet Irma's 32. 33.
Somewhere around there,
yeah. Tell her, why don't you just go ahead and tell height, weight, the whole thing. Or you're in public, just so you could have no place to go after
we'll
the show.
We'll go back to the old AOL times where like ASL.
Yeah.
Yes. He doesn't understand.
Yeah. So anyway.
He's like, what?
He's like,
yeah, I know. The old man, this new technology, I'm still like, okay, how do you do PowerPoints again? That kind of thing. It's sad. But anyway, we had a great 4th of July parade, and I got a few clips from that. And you've watched it from the comfort of your home, apparently, right?
I did.
All right, this picture of me and Sandy Mason, the American Legion, and I'm holding a picture of my father. They asked me to ride on the parade, and there I am again holding this picture. My dad served in the early 60s for the Army as a ranger and a jumper and all that, and his main military experience was Cuba. He was one of the people. His outfit was selected to go into Cuba had the Cuban Missile Crisis gone a different direction. And by the time Vietnam really ramped up, he was in the reserves. And he was in the reserves till I was about 11. Okay. And he lives in Corsicana, and he's not in the best of shape, okay? But I wanted him to be honored at the parade. And they asked me to ride with them, and I'm feeling like I'm not a veteran, so do I deserve that? And I talked to a couple people who said, no, your family has served. And so what you'll go on their behalf. So I was on their behalf of both sides of my family, of numerous veterans, all the branches. And here you see the parade. I don't know if it was better attended or not, because this is the first time I've ever been in a parade. There I'm riding along looking smooth. I have never been in the parade. No, I was with student council at BHS all those years. I organized probably 14 homecoming parades over the years, but I never saw it because I was in the parking lot at then Kerr Middle School or the high school trying to direct all the traffic and whatnot. And so I never saw it from this vantage point. It was great. A lot of people out there, a lot of kids, of course. It's got to be the dentist's favorite holiday because there's a lot of candy being thrown out there. And a lot of people were saying, thank you for your service, thank you for your service. And at first I was like a little uncomfortable with that. And I said, I'm here on behalf of my father and the others. So I'm accepting their thanks on their behalf. It wasn't for me, it was for them. And I had some people, a couple people anyway, who say, is that your picture? I said, no, it's my dad's. And they like that even better. They thought that was even more appropriate. And here's some of the judges. Yeah, Teal's Donuts. They're right behind us. What I liked about it also, here's some more.
Post 235. We thank you for being in our parade today. Veterans organization, the Burleson American Legion Post 235 is a community of service post that supports local veterans, the junior ROTC and program at BISD. Thank you for being a part of our parade today.
It really was great. I was about to say that, the tremendous amount of patriotism, flags, a lot of red, white, and blue shirts and hats and whatnot. No politics. There was, Helen Curran was there. Roger Williams had a car there. I don't know if he was there. But as far as like overt politics, there was none of that. I didn't see many Trump or Biden shirts. I didn't see any signs, anything like that. And it really was just nice just to have a day off from it, and celebrate the country as opposed to just all this political junk that we have to go through. And it was really, really nice. And, a lot of people out there, probably from out of town, and they saw the best of Burleson. And they had all the nonprofits there. It was a great thing. The Lions Club did an outstanding job. So I'm here sharing with the various groups so that everybody else could see it as well. I see your wife is already tagged in. Selfie
Yeah.
game 10-10, whatever that means. You tell me.
Yeah, she's complimenting how well you took a selfie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that
a
means.
couple of them were done for me. I have to admit, But as far as I'm learning the best I can about all this stuff. It's complex. But anyway, let's talk about our sponsors real quick, and then we're going to dive in and find out all about what's on Brandon Chris' mind today. I take you to our place. I've been there twice last week. You think I was a piece of furniture. I'm there so often. You got to take Irma also to Gina's Pizza because
We go all the time.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, good, because, as a veteran, not a veteran, that's not the word I want to use, as a longtime resident of Burleson that she is, she remembers Gina differently, I'm sure, because it was kind of a greasy joint. Now he's really made it nice. Yeah, I like the background music and all this. So Gina's Pizza, our place, great service, both places, great people, friendly service. And what I always compliment Otto on one thing, he doesn't not have a lot of turnover in his staff, which tells me a lot about him.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we had a conversation last time we were there with one of the waitresses, because it turns out one of them is actually from the same region of the world that Irma is. And
Oh, really?
They had a conversation in Bosnian, Serbian, Croatian. So
they all mashed together in one language or what?
yeah, they're all kind of the same. They just have different slang. You can understand them.
Really?
Well.
So when she gets mad at you and starts giving you a cuss and she does it in Bosnian?
Yeah. No.
Oh, she did. Make sure you understand it in English.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
she wants me to know.
Yeah.
But whenever her and her mom are like speaking, they definitely do speak in Bosnian. And there's not very many Bosnian words that sound similar to Brandon.
Yeah.
So I know when they're talking about it.
Oh, yes. She's praising you for what a great husband you are and father.
Oh, yes.
Also, thank you to Wild Cigar. They had a lot of fun yesterday over at the Standard. And Wild Cigar's got lots going on in July. They have a lot of vendors coming in for various deals and whatnot. It's got the great bar. It's got a nice place to do business. They have a conference room. They have all sorts of deals. They have drink specials on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They also have cigar deals all the time. So it's a really good place to go for a lot of reasons. So thank you, Nathan and Chris, for what y'all are doing. Also, Southern Gym closed yesterday, open today. So get your summertime jewelry. Now, she has an event, Gala, has an event coming up on the 13th and 14th, and there's going to be all sorts of specials. Now, I asked her, what specifically I could say, because she hasn't really figured out all the details, but there'll be a good number of her pieces are going to be on a substantial discount. And they're also having some other, some inducements to come in, as you might say.
Fantastic that you're talking about this.
Why is
I
that?
love it.
Why is that? My wife works here.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so funny?
Yeah, because my wife is gonna, they're having a sale.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You hearing that? No, it's a big sale, and it's going to mark the 1 year anniversary of their moving into that particular space. And what I always compliment Gayla about is that you can take Irma there, and if you're really not interested in looking at all the jewelry, you can go sit in the bullpen and have a drink and watch the TV. She always got something going on, particularly on Saturdays. They have horse races on. She's big into horse racing, so there you go. So Southern Gym, put that on your calendar, 13th and 14th. Also, Two Maids, twomaidcleaning.com/Burleson, 817-764-0733. They clean Gayla's place. They clean the whole Windmiller building. And they can work out a deal with y'all. They can work out, every week, bi-weekly, once a month, deep clean, whatever, fit your budget. They got it going on, and you pay them based on what you rate them. Plus, I've been toting this for a while. It's a good gift to give to your parents, if they're getting up there in age like mine are. My parents live out of their service area, but they have somebody coming in.
Yeah.
And because they're just getting there. And, so it's a really great thing. And Brenda Ramirez, who runs it, is very sharp. We're very impressed with her. Also, thank you to Old Pro Roofing, John Williams. Get your roof inspected while the rain ain't coming. It's supposed to rain today. Do you believe that? I am a weather agnostic. I don't really believe weather exists.
I really hope it does.
It's not going to rain. Never, ever again.
I'll say that.
Until September.
No, October, actually. The driest, it's interesting. The driest month in the year is the two driest months, or July and January.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's just weird how that works out. John Williams, 817-734-2756. He's going to come out, sometime next week and check my roof. It's no charge, and he'll tell you what you need to know. You're good to go. You need repairs. He'll help you deal with the insurance companies. Not all insurance companies are like. I have Texas Farm Bureau, and they really treated me fine, very well, when I had that water damage about 3 weeks ago. And it was, it came out on Friday. I got the check the next week, and, no hassle, no nothing. So anyway, and I just saw a friend of mine, Lisa, down the hall, the Stop Restoration. They were out there, boom, lickety split, and they got it done in 2 days. So good to go. Also, lastly, not leastly, Jeff Kelly, 817-781-0546, or Jeff at jeffkellyrealty.com with the Wethington Agency over here in Burleson. He's got a lot going on. He puts up some homes he's got for sale on Facebook. We share them. He's got some good deals for you, and he can help you navigate through all the jungle of real estate. He was on the show, I believe, the 25th. Yeah, that was the date. And so if you want to hear about what's going on in Burleson real estate, you can go back in the archives and get that particular one. So
there you go.
Yeah, no, I like talking about the sponsors because they're good people. They really are. It's important to me because I don't want to advertise for people that I don't have confidence in, and I have absolute confidence in these people. So
for sure,
that makes it a lot easier to promote the product or their service. So let's talk a little bit about politics in a general way. I'm not going to ask you all the details. And you'd be free to ask me what I think, because I could be a lot more free about it, because, I'm past Karen. I'm 62 years old now, and it's like, I get to that point where I get to be the cranky old man that mumbles, my feet hurt.
Scream at the clouds.
Yeah, you're yelling at the clouds. When you look at what's going on in the country today, or in the world today, what is one of the biggest concerns that just kind of continues to come up in your eyes?
Honestly, there's a lot.
Oh, well, we got time. We got
there's a lot.
47
I would
more
say
minutes.
the biggest thing for me really is climate change. If we're talking big issue policies, it's obviously something that is occurring. We just had the earliest Category 5 hurricane ever form, and is now, I think it just leveled some of the islands over in the Caribbean, just hit Jamaica. Now it's on its way to Mexico. Looks like it may turn and hit a little bit of Texas. So, that's definitely a big one. But just in general, if talking about the political arena, I feel like 2012 was about the last time that I felt like you went to the polls and voted for somebody and not against somebody.
Do you blame Donald Trump for that? Because he's been on the ballot the last 3 times.
I don't know if it's his fault per se. I really think, once Obama won in 2008 and, the Democratic Party had the trifecta in government in 2010, it lit some sort of fire in the GOP. And ever since then, it's just been, before then, there was obviously animosity between the parties, but before then, I felt like it was easier to work together. And then something happened over, Obama's tenure, which then, starting in 2016, it's just it's almost impossible to have bipartisan bills passed. The last few Congresses have been the least productive in history. I think this year is on track to be the least productive Congress in history.
Well, here's the thing. I'll take the other side of it just for, my view of Trump is not good. Okay, I'm not a big Trump fan, but I understand why people gravitate to him, because he says things that we wish we could say to Nancy Pelosi's face too, that kind of thing, or tells Chuck Schumer to eat dirt. Because in my view, a lot of the people that support Trump see in him as their spokesman against what they see as condescension, what they see against as, we're out here in flyover country and we're just a bunch of ignorant rednecks that, mouth-breathing cousin Marion slobs. And you get this very elitist attitude in the Democrat Party, West Coast, East Coast, in Chicago, I guess. And the media, the academics, the news media, the entertainment media all seem to be sneering and condescending towards a lot of the people that are attracted to Trump.
Yeah.
And so it's not strictly a matter of they were reacting strictly to policy, even though that was some of it. They're also reacting to, I think, a lot of the attitudes that are displayed by the political elite, which seem to dominate in the Democrat Party now. The Democrat Party in my youth was a very working class party, and it was Republicans that were seen as the tea-sipping country club types.
Yeah.
And they had the backing of big business and all this other stuff. Now it's most big businesses are afraid to do anything, or they'll back the Democrat Party. The Silicon Valley elite, certainly the news networks and the newspapers and whatever else. They were complaining about the liberal news media back when I was a kid, but I think it's just because of social media and Twitter or X, whatever. They're just finding more examples of people taking shots at them.
Well, social media really just amplified everything. A lot of people who had, kind of, they're not bad views. They're just their views, and maybe they're a little bit more fringe views. But they were able to find other people who shared their same kind of, at that time, fringy views. And then they started getting together and started realizing there's more people, and then they felt empowered. And now we're where we're at now.
Well, you look at the president, okay, and I'm going to go back not just his current situation, but over his career. He always portrayed himself as a working man, Scranton Joe and all this other stuff, and working man's friend. And now a lot of the people see him and his party as hanging around Hollywood stars or, are just the cultural elite. And a lot of people feel excluded from this. There's a great book that a woman named Dr. Arlene Hochschild, she's a professor of sociology at Cal Berkeley, wrote a book about strangers in their own land, which I own, and I read it. And I'll give Hochschild a great deal of credit because she went to go legitimately ask questions of Trump supporters. She went to like southern Louisiana and East Texas and all that. And she wasn't like trying to challenge their views. She just wanted to know what they were. Yeah. It's a great book because it really educated her a lot. It's J.D. Vance, whom you hear a lot about now, because he may be Trump's vice president, wrote a book called Hillbilly Elegy. Same thing. I have that book too. Now, his views are a little different now than they were in that book, but that's another story. As my old friend Ben Nickel, large corporations support Democrats because they're the only ones that have to worry about regulating them. Well, there's a lot to it than that. There's some Supreme Court rulings this last week that have something to say about that, but that might be a future show. That might be a good future show. How about their Supreme Court rulings?
There's a show about the Chevron deference. Mm-hmm. That's, a lot of people want to talk about the Supreme Court, the biggest thing being the presidential immunity. I think the Chevron deference one is the biggest.
For those who are not really clear about these legal terms, what the Chevron deference was is a ruling about 40 years ago that said basically if the law is ambiguous, then the courts are going to defer to the executive branch, to the agencies enforcing the laws, let them interpret it. And a lot of people really didn't like that then, and they didn't like it now because basically you're having unelected bureaucrats making law. Okay, yep. The laws were intentionally written vague to give maximum authority to unelected bureaucrats, and it's mostly people blame the Democrats for that. Republicans have done a few of those too, but the Democrats did use it to expand the regulatory state.
Yep. But everybody uses it. But we're at a point without it where, you look at court systems now, they're already completely worked, and there's just backlogs and everything. Now you're basically saying, okay, every single time we have an issue with the ambiguity of this law, and we don't want to defer to the regulatory agency, let's tie up more court cases. And now you have you just have the judges like having to rule on whether or not what a regulatory agency wants to do is within the bounds of the purposefully ambiguous law, which, it's fine if that happens one or two times, but what's going to happen is just because, everybody wants to fight everybody now. They're going to fight every single thing, and you're going to have every single decision that any regulatory agency ever makes. You're going to have 5, 10, 15 different lawsuits filed, and it's just going to completely back up, the bureaucratic process.
Well, and that's true. And I, when I first heard about this, I said, boy, I bet those lawyers are already, winding up their pitching arm for these cases, because there are going to be a bunch of now laws or rules made by agencies that are going to be challenged by corporations or individuals. But the other side of the coin is this. First of all, when you're dealing with an executive agency, all the factors are stacked in their favor. All right. If you have a dispute with them, they get to decide whether it goes to court or to their internal court system, their administrative law judge system. When I was with that group in Austin, the educator certification folks down in Austin, I was working with the TEA. The same thing happens at the state level. If the TEA and a teacher got in a dispute, you couldn't take them to court until you already had it adjudicated through the TEA. And if you didn't like the final result, then you could take them to court, but that was like 4 years sometimes after the original complaint. Well, it's like when you go to the IRS and they say you owe us taxes, you're going to be tried in their court with their people, with their administrative law judge. And you're having to prove your innocence. Whereas they're not, the burden on them is not to prove your guilt. It's on you to prove your innocence, which is totally backwards.
Yeah, it's backwards to how the Constitution's supposed to work there.
Yeah, and also the fact is that the Seventh Amendment clearly states in a civil case you have a right to a jury trial if the damages were over $20, which back then was much more substantial, of course. But, the case that kind of took away some of that authority was a case in the SEC, and they decided which court to use. And they're going to use their own courts because they have like a 95% success rate.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why I don't have I have some other views about it other than it's a bad thing. Second of all, is that you really can't fight the agencies. Here's an example my cousin uses. He had farmland, and one time they had heavy rain, and it caused an acre of his to flood down near the bottom of the hill, and he couldn't drain it into the bar ditch right next to it because now that a pond had been established, even if it's a temporary one, it now belonged to the United States under the Waters of the World Act. And since migratory geese may land there, he couldn't drain it.
Yeah.
Even though it was just right there, all you do is dig a small trench, boom, and it goes into the bar ditch. And so even on his own land, he now had it basically confiscated by the U.S. government. So that's why I think there's something had to be done about that kind of situation where basically we're subject to whatever whims the agency at the time had.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, that ruling. I just know I think that's the most substantial ruling that they did. I think that's going to have the biggest ripple effect of anything that they decided this term.
What about the presidential immunity one? My friend Lisa asked me to talk about that. Yeah, and kind of clarify that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't like how vague their ruling was. Because they're basically saying, yeah, you have absolute immunity for official acts, but we're not going to define what an official act is. Once again, we're loading up the courts because now every single time any president, and yes, right now, Joe Biden is the president, so it'll happen with him, but it's going to happen regardless of if a Republican or a Democrat is president. The other party is going to challenge every single thing that the president does.
But he'll have immunity. That's the whole issue of it.
Well, does he have immunity? Because it's only if it's an official act, and they didn't define what an official act is. So now they're going to have to go to court to decide, is this an official act? And now that we're in this world where, we can't be friends with each other, apparently, if you're the other party, they're just going to load up the courts again with more stuff.
Well, here's the thing, though, about, say, the opposite party is going to sue the president of the other party, is that almost always the court's going to say they don't have standing because because you have to show actual injury. Okay?
No, you're right.
It'd have to be somebody out in the world, so to speak, a company or a person that was injured, so to speak, by the action. Not just it irritated the crap out of you. And also, I will say that the party, even though this probably isn't going to happen, but the parties do have the impeachment possibility.
Yeah.
In
today's world, there is no chance we're getting three. Or there's no chance we're getting 3/4 of
2/3. But
is it two? Yeah,
That's
2/3.
Yeah.
67. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
There's no chance that's going to happen anytime soon, if ever again.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
unless there is just some terrible, terrible thing that goes on. I don't even know what, because isn't an official act now though.
Yeah. But see, here's that's what a lot of people are concerned. But the thing about it is, a lot of people looked at this as a ruling in favor of Donald Trump. I think the courts were ruling for the executive branch, regardless who's, because Joe Biden's going to benefit from this.
Absolutely.
I don't think he's going to win the election, but let's say he does, or he does and then resigns afterwards. Whatever, who knows what's going to happen. It's going to be more difficult for Trump to go after him like he says he is because of that. And so Joe Biden, he may bellyache about this ruling, but he's going to benefit from it. And so,
absolutely.
And it also would protect Mr. Obama. Now, I don't think Mr. Obama did criminal acts in office, but it'll prevent people from ginning up some sort of accusation of a criminal act just to harass and, cause inconvenience.
Well, it's not going to stop people from doing it. It's just going to stop.
It's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be harder because the courts will say, look, he's protected under presidential immunity.
If it's an official act.
And
that's my biggest problem with it, is how vague it is. Like, if they would have I don't like it. Let me just put that out there. I don't like it because, like, it kind of undermines the idea of the Constitution of nobody is above the law. I don't like the idea that there is one person that we elect that could technically be above the law. I just think that's kind of completely antithetical to our Constitution.
Well, here's an example. Back in, I want to say 2013, Obama ordered the assassination of a terrorist who also was an American citizen. Now, that American citizen was operating in foreign territory. He wasn't here in the United States, but he was part of an ISIS crew, and he was leader of it, and he ordered his assassination. Is that a criminal act?
Once you join ISIS.
Yeah, well, I didn't have any sympathy for the guy either. But I'm just saying, it says, Mr. Nichols says, Obama droned innocent U.S. citizens. So that's what we're talking about here.
So did Trump. So did Bush.
Hey. No, he didn't. And anyway, the point is that that I didn't have a problem with it, to tell you the truth, because he was an enemy of our country. And his citizenship status, to me, was irrelevant. But it is a crime.
Yeah. I mean, what it is. But especially, then that's what I'm saying. That goes back into that official act thing, right? I think any court would have ruled that an official act, but a court has to rule on it now that that's an official act. If somebody actually did decide to try to, bring charges against him for doing that, they would have to determine, is that an official act under the presidency? And it's just vague.
Well, I think this precedent that's going to set, hopefully, after we maybe work out a few of these kind of cases, it might curtail some of that activity, but maybe not tomorrow, because what's going to happen.
It's going to take another case to get up to the Supreme Court for them to create a test that will then be a little bit less vague, because they'll have a test of if it's...
I appreciate you saying that, because I teach in my constitutional law class the various use of tests that the courts have done over the years. A standard by which to judge other cases by.
Yep.
So it's that's interesting, because I don't hear that used very often outside of the classroom, but that's good.
Well, one of my favorite topics in school, and I was always good friends with the government teachers.
Oh, good.
So,
well, they're good people. They're honest, God-fearing Americans, or something like that. Anyway, something like that. I get concerned about Trump using the office as a means of exacting retribution, which is something he has more or less said directly. I mean, this is not an inference.
Yeah, no, he's...
And I don't want him to do that.
I think in 2016, I think he had no... I don't want to say he had no intention to win. I think he was as surprised as everybody else that he won that night. Case in point is that it took him 2 to 3 hours to actually give a victory speech, because I think he was sitting there going, holy crap, I won.
Yeah.
I need to give some sort of speech. And then, he was like, okay, I'm going to try to do this. But now, this election is all about, I'm mad because it got taken from me. I mean, we're talking about a guy whose entire personality is based upon winning. And he lost, and he hates that. And now he wants to have revenge on every single person that in his mind is the reason he lost.
A lot of times, or a lot of people, or rather, say it right, a lot of people are comparing this current administration with his administration, Mr. Trump's, and they look at the economic situation, say it was better, and look at the foreign situation, and it was better. We didn't have Ukraine, we didn't have Israel, and we didn't have, China threatening Taiwan and all this other business. Is that your perspective, or is that just political hype?
I think it's political hype. I mean, what are we? Honestly, yeah, we're the United States. We're most powerful country in the world. People, look at us that way. But like, really, what are we going to do? I mean, he can have a lot of hyperbole. Trump can about if I was president, Russia would have never invaded Ukraine. You can't say that. They're their own sovereign country. Vladimir Putin is going to make his own decisions. Just like, whenever, just the same thing, like what's happening right now in Israel and Gaza. There's a lot of people on the Democratic side, like, giving Joe Biden a lot of flack. Like, why aren't you stopping this? I'm like, they're their own sovereign country. They can make their own decisions. Like, just because we're the United States doesn't mean we're going to make their decisions for them. It's probably not helping that we're supplying weapons. If they're not happy about it, it's probably not a good thing. But we're not gonna be able to tell them to stop. Well,
the counterpoint I would give to that is that if they think that the president's going to react in a certain way, that it's going to impact their decision quite a bit. I do believe, like in the Reagan administration, the reason why the Russians came to the conclusion that this guy meant business, we're not going to be able to push him around like we did Carter, or we're not going to have to worry about détente like we did with Ford. That we're going to have to deal with this guy who just might do it. If we push him too far. I think there was something to that. And the same thing with Trump. I think I don't know. It's always speculative, right? Who knows what Putin would have done? But I do believe that because Trump had just little touch of he just may do it, that the Ukraine or Israel may or may not have happened. But I do believe that because of Biden's handling of the Afghanistan situation and how badly that was run and how confusing and how it resulted in 13 deaths, even if
that was bad.
Well, but then he said no one's died during that debate. He said no one's died under my watch, and the Gold Star dad's about to go nuts because 13 people died.
Yeah, no, that was not good.
Yeah, and then I think
one thing lost about that though, like I remember when it was happening, people was giving Joe Biden a lot of flack, like, oh my God, how dare you make a deal with the Taliban? That deal was actually completely authored and managed by Trump's administration. They're the one that made the plan with the Taliban. But then Biden's handling of the plan that Trump created was a disaster.
Plus, he overruled his general's suggestions that leave at least a small force behind. Now, and I really do believe if Biden does lose this election, it began then, because his poll numbers never recovered after that event.
Oh, it will not.
And
that debate.
And Mr. Nickel here is not a fan of our adventures in Ukraine, but we've had our Facebook debates on that.
Yeah.
I do support Zelensky in Ukraine, even though
Vladimir Putin, his entire goal is to reunify the old USSR, and that's not good for anybody.
But also the fact is that Mr. Nickel isn't wrong when he says Zelensky's government needed tremendous reform. And
absolutely.
The Ukrainian government had a reputation for extreme corruption. But
before Zelensky, funny enough, the story of Zelensky, how he was actually a comedian.
Right.
He played a role of Ukraine's president on a comedy show, and then he decided, I might as well try it. Why not? And then he won.
Yeah.
And he's actually, I think he's actually been a really good he's shown to be like a really strong ruler of Ukraine. Like he's put his foot down to Russia. Like everybody thought once Russia invaded this country, it was going to take 2 or 3 days max, and it would fall. And we're 3 years in now, and it's at a stalemate. And it's really the Ukrainians' resolve. They don't want to give up their territory, which is rightfully so. They shouldn't have to give it up. But Zelensky himself has been just a tremendous ruler over there for the Ukrainians.
You know, as far as Mr. Biden's handling of Afghanistan, I was shocked, angry. What also made us even madder was his denial that it was a failure, and his lack of acknowledgement of those 13 people. I mean, he mentioned them off the cuff, but he basically denied that it was a disaster, a complete and total disaster.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that's really been bothering a lot of Americans, including me, but and probably you too, is the complete lack of candor until really yesterday. President Biden gets on the air and says, "Yeah, I messed up on the debate because I was too busy. I was working too hard for the American people." Excuse.
he said he was sleepy.
Sleepy.
I don't know if you saw the thing yesterday, but he told a group of governors that he needs more sleep and will stop, doing late night events. I'm like, did you really just say that?
Yeah. What was the headline on the Post and the Times and all the news outlets? And they're like, well, let's just hope, we don't have a nuclear war after 8:30 because he'll be tired.
I'm sorry, it's my bedtime, guys.
It reminded me of I just saw The Longest Day, the movie Longest Day about D-Day about 2 weeks ago, and one of the reasons why the Allies had got such a foothold is because no one wanted to wake up Hitler. He had, they'd say, tell the Fuhrer we need his permission to move these tanks. Well, he's asleep, and we're not going to wake him up. I thought, and that's what I looked like. I'm not going to do anything after 8 o'clock. And so basically 5 o'clock Pacific time, he's off the clock. And then all this other stuff. He didn't start his day till 10 anyway. And so that really is, I need more sleep. Well, so do I. But if I go take a nap, it's nobody's loss, But that
to just to clarify to anybody listening, we're not comparing Hitler to Biden.
No, we're not. No.
So you know.
Oh, I didn't even.
I do like what my wife just said.
What?
All emergencies need to be planned around business hours.
Yeah,
please.
that's right. Yeah. No, if anybody took that was comparing him to Hitler, that's not the even close to the analogy I'm trying to make. I don't make that analogy about Trump either, even though some people do.
I don't think he's Hitler.
No, I don't.
And a lot of people aren't going to like what I'm about to say.
Go ahead.
I don't think he's smart enough to be Hitler.
Yeah, okay. Nah, that's fine. You just remember, you're welcome to your opinion. It says right. No, it doesn't say that. No, okay. Well,
We'll just cover up the D there and Brandon's opinion.
yeah, there you go. All right. Well, the thing about it is that it just seems like every time he tries to explain himself, it gets worse.
Yeah.
He gets on the air with a radio station, I believe in Milwaukee, and basically mumbles and fumbles his way through it. And then he talks about, I screwed up because I was jet lagged, 12 days after? And, and they talk about how, he didn't start his day till mid-morning and then he had a nap and all this other stuff. That excuse that he was working so hard on behalf of the American people, which is that nitwit press secretary of his, Corinne Jean-Pierre was talking about, that didn't fly. No. And it didn't. And the thing about it is this 10 to 4 routine is something that predates this debate. And he has, how many weekends he's actually spent in D.C. since he's been president? Less than 5.
Yeah.
He spends all his weekends in Delaware.
Yeah.
He leaves like a mid-afternoon Friday, comes back Sunday night, Monday morning, and he's spending all his time at his beach house in Delaware. And they'll say, well, he's working for the American people, even on his vacation. Rubbish. All right. So yeah, and that's going to be a big liability in the debates. I mean, or rather the election.
Well, the whole debate. I said this to you in a text message, but both parties there, the expectations for Trump and Biden were already low. Mm-hmm. All Trump had to do for that debate was basically just be on his best behavior. Don't go off in your tangents. Mm-hmm. Don't start, talking about the big lie of the 2020 election.
Well, he did.
Well, he tried, you know, and he kind of, I think he realized like, okay, I need to stop. All he had to do though was be on his best behavior, and all Biden had to do was not look like a frail old man. That's all that was his only expectation. They showed up to that debate. Biden looked like a frail old man, and Trump was on his best behavior. So I'm not surprised when I see the polls and it's like, who won this debate? And it's like 84% say Trump. Yeah. I mean, he did what he needed to do. Biden did not what he needed to do.
Yeah, a lot of people are complaining that many of the things that Trump said are overshadowed by Biden's performance.
I mean, because he spoke nothing of substance like policy. It was all of his usual hyperbole and, you know, just extravagant claims. I don't know how many times he said he was like, you know, the country was the best under me. You know, there was nobody, you know, presidential scholars, you know, rated me the best. Like, it harps back to me to his inauguration, right? Whenever his crowd was not very large, right? And then he started going off on this whole thing like, I had the largest crowd in history. Again, that goes back to his whole attitude of he wants to win, he wants to be the winner, and he doesn't like losing. And that is his entire personality. So whenever he looks at his, you know, his inauguration crowd, and it's like, well, it's really not. I mean, there's a good number of people there, but like if you compare it to like 2008, whenever Obama won, it just Obama's inauguration crowd in 2008 like dwarfed whatever Trump had in 2016, and he didn't like that. So then we go back to now, and it's like, you know, presidential historians, you know, he wants to be, you know, he wants to like change history, you know, and it's like, I'm the best. They've been rating me the best. No, they haven't.
Well, a lot of people though do look on the 4 years of Donald Trump, and they didn't see inflation, unemployment was low, and up until COVID, they said, well, he's irritating, whatever. But you know, everything, you know, I'm making money and doing okay, and so if he wants to get up there and, you know, act that way, that's fine, as long as it doesn't affect me. And then COVID happened, and I do believe that had COVID never happened, or had he handled COVID differently, and not listened to the advice of now, I think, thoroughly discredited Tony Fauci, that he still may have won, even if he
would have won. Though I think what people don't specifically realize is that even had he won, where we're at now with the level of inflation still would have happened. The reason that the inflation started occurring as much as it did is really because of all of the tariffs that we started putting on all of those goods coming from other countries. And then what's going to happen? Like, look, I know that the whole caveat is, okay, you know, the corporations are going to, you know, they're going to have to, you know, raise prices. Well, if inflation goes up, say 5%, if the cost of your goods sold go up 5%, but you raise the price of your goods by 35%, and then I see an article that you just recently gave your boss, you're the CEO, an extra $2-3 million because you had the best year in history. That's corporate greed. That's not inflation. Do I think inflation occurred? Absolutely.
Well,
but I think
it did.
It occurred because of a bunch of tariffs that kind of started hitting, and they're still hitting.
Well, and Biden wants to continue those tariffs.
Yeah.
And also the fact
he wants to continue the tariffs because they are making the U.S. like the trade deficit like less bad. I mean, it's doing a good job, but the problem is that all of those price increases that occurs because now goods are more expensive coming from these countries, the corporation's not going to take that. They're going to roll it off to the consumer.
Well, but on the other hand, you know, when COVID was starting to recede, and then they still threw in $1.8 trillion in new stimulus money, and then the fact that you have the egregiously named Inflation Reduction Act that basically blew up the deficit even further. We're going to have like a $1.8 to $2 trillion deficit this year alone. All that extra money is going to cause inflation. Yeah. And then you couple it with what you're talking about, plus the supply chain issues we had coming out of COVID, and the prices are going through the roof. And when they get up there and say, well, prices only rose 3% this month, what they're not telling you is that that's based on the previous price level, which has been elevated since 2020.
Yeah, and that's also the cost of goods sold. But then that's the end consumer is not seeing a 3% increase because, again, the corporations are wanting to. They're like, okay, if I can raise the prices, okay, or let me take it this way: the price of these goods for us has gone up 3%. I can roll out a 5% increase to the consumer, blame it on the government, and then we make more money.
You don't have much confidence in the moral condition of our CEOs, do you?
I have zero confidence of the moral position of any CEO.
Well, kind of on a side note, though, about the pre-Trump days, then you have the issue of the border, and people were very upset about how that was handled. But the fact of the matter was the Remain in Mexico policy did work. The Title 42 of the COVID-related issue did work. And, and they made a big deal about, separation of families and putting kids in cages that were built during the Obama administration, by the way. And no one really got on board with that. And you didn't see the news media talking about that until.
That's one of my, that is one of my favorite things not favorite things.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of like separating families, but it is funny to me that those border separations, they absolutely started under Obama. Honestly, we talk a lot about, the Democratic Party talks a lot about Obama being this great guy. And I mean, honestly, for 8 years, I felt like there, wasn't that many like scandals coming out. I think the biggest scandal that he had was he wore a tan suit one day.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. Oh, whenever that was the only, the biggest thing. I missed
there's issues with the IRS, which I believe do have some credibility.
The amount of, Benjamin here mentioned earlier, Obama droned, he droned a lot of people. He ramped up the United States' drone policy, the United States' like a separation at the border policy. Like he has just as much like blood on his hands as anybody else. But like this idea that I don't like the idea of both parties are the same, because they're not. They're very different from each other in terms of ideology. But whenever people start getting into the argument of, when Trump did this and, Biden didn't do this and it was better when Trump did this, or whenever Obama did, they do the same kind of things.
But now that Biden has actually adopted many of Trump's border policies, the numbers have dropped, and he's making a big deal out of it. And they're like, you're not, I tell the American people that give him credit, are you not cluing in the fact he's doing exactly what Trump did? That you raised so much hell about in 2020 about how cruel it was. He's doing the same thing. He reinstated some of the Remain in Mexico policies and all this other business.
Well, he took away the separating kids thing. He's not doing that anymore.
But how many people do we have in this country illegally? And the answer is, I don't know. You don't know. They don't know.
Nobody knows.
Yeah,
the census. I worked for the Census Bureau back in 2010. I was 20 years old, just wanted to make some extra money. And that is one of the things you're supposed to do, is figure out. And a lot of people kind of do misinterpret it. They're like, well, the census is trying to count them so they can, give them benefits. No, they're just trying to count them so they have a number. Yeah. Because they need to know. And, where I grew up, there's a few. I remember one just vivid story about it. I walked up to this one guy. He was just kind of off the beaten path. And I was like, hey, I'm with the U.S. He goes, no government. What? No government. Okay. Mark him down as a non-response.
Well, here's the thing, though, is like, I don't believe that all the people coming across the border illegally are human trash or anything like that. They're desperate people trying to do better.
I think the minority of them are. I don't even think it's the majority are.
It's a small minority of them, though, that are dangerous to the country.
Absolutely.
All right, but I would say the vast majority of them.
The Kazakhstani nationals that just got, yes, there are definitely some.
And we don't even know others, sleeper cell operators that have come into the country. And then you have that girl in Georgia being killed by somebody who shouldn't be here.
Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, and then you have the episode in New York, and then you have the episode down in Houston, and that can't be dismissed.
No, absolutely not.
But I just don't want.
I just don't like the. I think in this is where, you mentioned earlier how politics has turned where the either the Democrats or Republicans are accusing the other party of like heinous things. I think the biggest problem that at least the Democratic Party has right now with the way that Trump is saying is that he's not giving any sort of indication that he thinks any of them are good. He's all of them are bad. They're all, he uses the word vermin. They're, terrible.
That's a bad word to use.
Horrible people. I'm like, no, most of them are just like the reason they want to come live here is because Mexico is very bad.
Well, it's all of Central America. I mean,
it is not good.
But we're also getting from China. We're getting them from Europe. We're getting from Haiti. We're getting from everywhere. We characterize illegal immigration as Hispanic, Mexican, Central American, whatever.
But I mean, it is.
But the majority is.
It's the majority of it.
Yeah, but it's really, and it's also coming through from Canada as well. We just don't talk about that as much. But it is.
There's literally not even like a fence on some places of that border.
Most of it's unfenced.
Yeah.
And so
just walk right across.
Well, there you go. But the thing about it is all this illegal immigration, it is a problem. And it's a moral problem for us because you don't want to be harsh. But on the other hand, we can't afford to have unlimited immigration and the stress and strain it puts on our schools and our hospitals and our other public facilities and whatnot. And also the fact is that we don't know who's here. And that's a big problem. And you have states like California that make the problem worse by giving illegal immigrants benefits and all this other stuff. And it's like, I
think they're the only state that does that.
Yeah, but
I know that they're the biggest, obviously, but I think they're the only state. And the only reason I mention that is because I've heard so many times it's like, oh, they're coming over here and getting Social Security, and they're not.
Well, it's a kind of also the other side of the immigration issue is if it was a controlled immigration, it'd be a good thing for this country because seriously,
the country was built on
right, and a lot of the jobs. Like I just had guys in my home for the last 3 weeks doing renovations, all speaking Spanish. Now they spoke better English than I spoke Spanish. I can tell you that for the most part. But I didn't ask for green cards, and I was able to get quality service and affordable service. Okay. And people all say, well, we shouldn't let them be here unless they're roofing my house or mowing my yard or they're making my hamburger. Well, then we're okay with it.
Florida did they passed the law where employers had to, do the verification of all of their employees. And then all of a sudden, all of their construction sites shut down.
Right.
Their state's construction and road work and everything just shut down.
Well, so let's not be too hypocritical. Say, well, they don't pay taxes. Well, they do every time they walk into Stop and Go or QT and buy something. So I'm not.
Doesn't matter in Texas. We don't have a state income tax.
Yeah. My view on immigration is we need controlled immigration. We need a whole lot better screening process. We need to make sure that we're not letting in the wrong people, and we need to know how many we got here.
Well, I mean, the problem obviously is that they've been gutted of budget for years.
Yeah. But the catch and release program under Biden is terrible because they give them a court date 5 years in the future, and please be here. You're not going to make that date. By that time, they're being entrenched into the economy.
Yeah.
And anyway, today they came out with the job report. 206,000 jobs. It's good. How many of those jobs are taken by undocumented people? Probably about 2/3. If you read down at the bottom of the report. But one last thing, we're running out of time. Do you think Joe Biden will still be the candidate going forward?
I hope not.
Oh, really? Would you prefer Kamala Harris?
I don't know.
I do know. I don't want her.
I don't know.
What when you say you hope Joe doesn't go forward? Why? Not that I don't know.
Well, let me look at it this way. I've started looking the way that at least me and probably other millennials and probably some Gen Zers, I've started looking at the election as I'm not voting really for the president. I'm voting for the administration that the president is going to. No, I know. You're like, ooh, I don't like that.
Well, because that doesn't make me feel better. I don't want
to. I get that. But the problem is that like I said earlier, since 2012, like starting with 2016 election, I don't feel like I've voted for anybody at the top of the ticket. I've been just voting against the person that I just really don't like.
Well, I voted for Trump in 2016, not even understanding some of the issues involved with him. I didn't like him very much. I don't think he's lived a life that I'd be proud of, to be frank. least in my personal life. But I had such a distaste for Hillary Clinton. I still do. But I get it. You know, I talk to a lot of people your age, like my son and his friends, and they all have the same opinion. They feel like they haven't had an election in a long time that they were excited to vote in, if ever. You know, because my son's first election would be
2012.
Yes, 2012.
Yeah, my first one was 2008.
Yeah, and he, he cast a vote for Obama without really that much concern, even though he's canceling out my vote. I voted for Romney because I had no problem with Romney. And it's fine. My son can have his own opinions. But the point is that Kamala Harris, no, thank you. She's worse.
She has about as much charisma as a rock.
Well, and the fact, and she's from California, which is going to be hard to. Well, you like that, did you? It's going to be hard for her to win from California because all Trump has to do is look at what's going on in California with the $20 minimum wage for food workers and how businesses are shutting down and all this stuff they're doing with the migration issue and all this, And San Francisco is like the very stereotypical epitome of liberal left-wing kookery, and she's from San Francisco. And so
she wasn't very liked in San Francisco.
No.
She's from San Francisco.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. I won't get into all the rumors about her background because it's just not worth our time. But the point is that you really don't think Joe Biden's going to go forward, or do you think
I think he will.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think, if you harp back really to the last time that, this didn't happen, but the last time that, the party was kind of left up to its own devices to pick its own nominee back in 68, it was not very good.
Hubert Humphrey was
funny
a
enough,
bad man.
1968, the convention was also in Chicago.
Right.
There was also some stuff going on in the world, and there was also protest. I think this year's convention in Chicago is going to look very similar.
Well, I don't know if it will. In one case, is that a lot of it's going to be virtual. Joe Biden's not going to be in town except for one day.
Yeah,
and they're not.
I think Trump's going to do the same thing for the RNC though, because he hates Milwaukee.
Oh yeah. Horrible town, he called it. But
horrible town.
Well, I've had people say the same thing, but it's not very politically correct for him to do that. But I don't know. Are you going to watch that? Quote interview George Stephanopoulos is going to give Biden. They're taping it today and they're going to show it tonight. Are you going to watch it?
I think they're going to show part of it tonight, and then they're going to show the full on the next Sunday.
Okay, the full interview. Even the outtakes, even where he stumbles. I don't have any confidence that George Stephanopoulos is going to do anything but polish his boots because.
Well, he was
with Clinton all those years, and he's
media guy for Clinton.
Yeah, and a media guy for ABC that has, it'd be like having Trump get interviewed by Sean Hannity. That's how I looked at it.
My wife over there giving her.
If Joe actually believes democracy is at stake, the only responsible thing he can do is step off the ticket.
I think him. I don't think he will, and honestly, I think if he does, it's going to push a lot of those middle of the fence people saying, "Wow, that party's in disarray."
And also, what's the Democratic Party going to say? He said, "Well, we told you for 3 years he's fine, he's fine, he's fine." We had the governors come out and say he's fine. We've had all these people. Oh, he's sharp as a tack. I can't keep up with him, and then he steps down because of this. It's like, let's just be frank. The Democratic Party lied to the American people about Joe Biden's true condition. And now it's come to the visual for everybody to see. And now the stories are coming out in the New York Times, on CNN,
the New York Times,
or Washington Post. All these liberal, people that have built him up. They're saying, we knew this for a long time. We heard rumors and whispers that he wasn't doing well.
Of course, you can say that. Well,
now. Say it now. But where was this 3 weeks ago? When they saying, "Oh, you kidding? Joe Biden's Olympian. He's Hercules." Off the record, he may stumble because he stutters and all that, but wait till behind the scenes, boy. This is well before your time, but there's a very famous Saturday Night Live skit with Phil Hartman, who unfortunately was killed, but he was my favorite SNL guy, and he would do this imitation of Reagan. Reagan had the similar kind of criticism that he was just this genial old man, and good personality, really funny, but not really that smart and all that stuff. And so they had like this one, Hartman was doing public Reagan, with the Girl Scouts, and he's, how you doing? Oh, you're so pretty. And then when the door said, "Okay, you guys," he turned into like this mob boss, and we're going to do this. We'll take this guy out. Oh, Mr. President, so and so is out there. Oh, hi, how you doing? So he kept switching from Uncle Ronnie to mob boss Ronnie, and that's what people would have you believe about Joe Biden. And that's why I think the Democrat Party lied to us all these years, and the media was complicit in that lie.
Yeah.
And
I remember in 2000, I think 7, 8, as I was in a government class in my senior year of high school, I complained to my government teacher. I'm like, I really wish. It seems like not that many people are involved in politics. They're not involved, but they just don't care. Like, do they realize how much this is affecting their lives? And now I'm just like, man, I wish there weren't this many people involved in politics.
Well, we've been going for about an hour, so I'm going to let you finish off the last word. Tell us what's on your mind, what you think is going to happen, and then we'll do this again, maybe closer to the election. Because we'll probably have a totally different candidate. Your wife thinks that Trump should step down. That ain't happening.
His whole persona is about winning. He will never purposefully not win. Yeah. I think right now it's not looking good for Biden, but I think the numbers will recover for him, mostly because it's not because he's going to show himself to be some amazing. He's actually not senile or anything like that, but Trump is just hard to like, especially unless you're just really a huge fan of him and you like him.
And I know a lot of people that are.
Yeah, I mean, if you just really like him, yeah. But if you're just kind of middle of the fence and you're just listening to him, it's hard to really want to vote for him. So I think right now, I think they'll recover, but I think the election's going to be close. I think there's a huge chance that we'll have the same thing that happened in 2016, where Biden will win the popular vote, but Trump will win the Electoral College because he'll win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin.
Well, I want to disagree with you on one point, and that is I don't think Biden's numbers are going to recover. I really don't, because polls tend to have a momentum. And what is he going to do to dispel the predominant notion that he's not fit for the job? It
really depends.
No
if he shows up at the DNC and he actually, is like he was the day after the debate, and he. But
that was a different deal. That was a teleprompter event. It lasted 5 minutes. It was small arena.
He does
scripted things.
The way he was at the debate was worse than I have ever seen him, because I've seen him, at different events, and he's never been that bad.
Well, again, they're scripted. He's reading off the screen. He can stand and read, and he'll even read pause.
Well, yeah, that's so can Trump.
Yeah, I know, but no, Trump is a lot better at riffing. That gets him in trouble.
That's the part that people don't like.
Oh, I knew I would say that. Taylor Swift will need to step in. Oh, brother. Anyway, we're going to run long, but we'll know, because I want to have you on again in about 3 months, and we may have a totally different discussion. And maybe you're right, but I have a hard time seeing his numbers rebound, because why are they going down is because what they saw, and there's no pill he can take. If he even has a good event, they're going to say, now you have the media saying, look at the teleprompter. You never saw those camera angles before that showed the teleprompters.
Yeah.
And these events, and they never mentioned it before. Now they are. And I don't know, it's too little too late, but we are running late, and Taylor's a very busy man. Did you enjoy the show today, Taylor?
It was wonderful. We had a lot of people in the chat today, too.
Yeah, we did.
We need some more political shows.
We are, and we're going to see what the dates are.
During election season.
Oh, we are. We're going to have a bunch of them. But next week, though, I have Wings of Victory. No, I'm sorry. Wings of Hope. Oh, good heavens. Wings of Victory. Wings of Hope.
That's a cool name, though.
Yeah, they're an equine therapy group. They were on about 2 months ago, and they are very, it's a very interesting group, because they use horses to help with people with disabilities. Apparently, equine therapy, I had never heard of it till this point, but they really do a great job. And then I have, the next day, I'm going to have Veronica Seitz on. She's an author. She talks about, some spiritual matters, if you will. I'm going to talk about that. And then also next Thursday, Taylor, you're going to be gone next Thursday, right?
I will be out, but we will have somebody running the show.
I'm having a friend from BNI, a guy from, originally from St. Kitts, but he's been in the country many, many years, Ulrich Warner. And he has a brand promotional business, makes coffee cups, hats, whatever else. And I just thought, he has an interesting story. And so I thought we'd bring him in and talk a little bit about his business, but a little bit about him. And, I like to have shows from my B&I buddies because there's some really good people in that group. But I'm really looking forward to the 16th because we have a winemaker come in with samples.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun show.
Donna and Dwayne Patrick, you'll be here for that.
Yes, I will make sure I am here for that.
Oh, yeah. And Brandon made, I just happened to be in the building.
Oh, yes.
Was that wine I see?
All right, well,
I just happened to be here.
I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the candor. Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me of baseball.
You.
All right. Well, this is actually coming up Saturday with the Railroaders. By the way, Kay, if you're listening, I wore my Railroaders hat at the parade yesterday because I needed red, white, and blue, and there it was. So I was representing even then. But tomorrow, it's Wild West night. The Pete Dinkinville bobblehead giveaway. Tonight, they're going to have a big fireworks show again. They had a huge one last night over in Cleveland.
I love that. Biggest fire. Second biggest.
Second biggest
fireworks show.
Yeah, so tonight they'll have the second biggest one on the season. Tomorrow they're going to have Pete Dinkinville, which former Ranger, big hitter and all that, and he's their manager. Wild West night, and then Sunday of Spike's Kids. That's their kids club. And let them do a lot of things like run the bases and meet the players. So if you have some time, go to the Railroaders tonight or tomorrow night or Sunday afternoon. It's always a good time. It's fun people.
Oh, my son loves fireworks.
Well, take them there. It's a good place to take a little kid because it's a low stress environment. It's affordable, and they do a good job with the Railroaders of being part of the community. We ran a little long today, but we had lots to talk about. So we'll see y'all next week. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.